Welcome back to Digital Businesses series, Ahead of the Curve Business Talks. My name is Jerren Lewis and I am delighted to be your host. Ahead of the Curve is a show for ambitious business professionals who want to keep up to date with what's happening in the business world, get more out of their businesses, and stay ahead of their competition. I'm going to be coming to you right here every month as we explore what it takes to build a successful company. That is, you guessed it, always ahead of the curve. Now today we have someone very special with us. But before I introduce her to you, let's take a moment to take a quick look at digital entrepreneurship, which is most definitely on the rise. The opportunities and accessibility digital entrepreneurship provides for anyone, anywhere across the world have made it a valuable tool for people to transform their worlds. And there are some really positive trends, particularly the fact that the barriers to digital entrepreneurship are relatively low. Innovation in the digital world requires little funding, especially to produce a minimum viable product that can be showcased to investors. Additionally, internet and tech penetration has made digital tools fairly available across the globe. But there are still some challenges in emerging markets that have growing but still weak entrepreneurial ecosystems, which means that startups in these countries have less access to funding or even regulations that can support their growth. And that's why I'm delighted we get to pick the brain of today's special guest. We have with us Christine Ntim, serial technology entrepreneur, disruptor, and founder of the Haiti Tech Summit. Christine is a Haitian-American startup ecosystem expert for emerging international markets such as Haiti, Dubai, and Africa. Her entrepreneurial journey started with Vendedy, a social network connecting people to street markets with the aim of digitizing a $10 trillion black economy and centralizing the world's 200,000 street markets. Her award-winning digital entrepreneurship career began in 2013 when she quit a job in banking and moved to Dubai. During her time there, she volunteered to organize and support tech entrepreneurs, and not long after, her fierce hustle and hard work paid off, and she became one of the most recognizable faces within the tech ecosystem in Dubai. Christine, it is an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you very much for joining us. And you have a very, very inspirational story. So I followed your journey a little bit. You started out as a street vendor in Haiti, eventually taught yourself how to code. You founded Vendedy and the Haiti Tech Summit. Where does this passion for entrepreneurship and technology come from?
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here. And I think the obvious inspiration comes from my upbringing, right? I mean, my mother was a street vendor, my family were all street vendors. And so you're around that hustle and bustle all the time. The only thing that you see as really a path forward is really entrepreneurship. So I've been around it from the very sense. And I would say growing up in Haiti helps a lot. From dawn, all you hear is activity of people starting a day, starting businesses, doing something, really just using their creativity to start businesses. So I've been a part of that lifestyle since I was born. And so it was just innate that I was going to start a business and be in the entrepreneurship ecosystem like I have since my upbringing.
Right. And I actually found a quote online while I was following your journey where you said, Haiti is not open for business. It's open for disruption. I think that's a really powerful statement. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that and tell me what type of disruption you're referring to?
Yes, I think that quote actually went viral across the Haitian community. It was a very bold statement. Those who know me, I know my accent sounds very American, but I'm a proud Haitian American. And I grew up in Haiti. And one thing I would say is that there's a very bad negative kind of narrative around Haiti as a country. And one of it is investing in the country, investing in the potential of building a business in Haiti. And I was very I realized that I needed to be very clear in the fact that, Haiti may not be open for business in the most traditional sense, but where there are challenges, there are always opportunities, and that's where disruption lie. So what I was clearly sharing with my community and to the world at large is that Haiti is open for disruption. If you can make something happen in Haiti, I believe that there's so much potential to scale business and innovative solutions around the world. So I was just boldly making it very clear that Haiti was open for opportunity, just not in the traditional sense, nor did it deserve a traditional solution to what was happening in the country.
Yeah, and I think it's always important to be, forward thinking like that and progressive and a visionary. And that brings me to my next question about the Haiti Tech Summit, which you founded. What are the impacts from that you are most proud of?
I mean, there's so many initiatives and programs and activities that has come because of the Haiti Tech Summit. But I'll start by saying that we redefined where tech hubs and innovation hubs can come from. I think prior to places like, especially with the launch of Haiti Tech Summit, I'm not sure if you heard the journey of Haiti Tech Summit, but this is the 5th year that we're hosting Haiti Tech Summit. And prior to that program, a lot of innovation conversation only started in the United States, in America, in Silicon Valley. And I was tired of people believing that you had to relocate to Silicon Valley to not only start tech conversation, but start tech movements. And Haiti Tech Summit, the first thing that it did was talked about how do we build innovation ecosystems locally in Haiti, more specifically the Caribbean, which has consistently been talked about as just simply a tourism destination and not an innovation hub, not an entrepreneurial hub. I think Caribbean talent is probably the most entrepreneurial talent you could find in the world because the creativity that we have in this region is just unmatched. And so with Haiti Tech Summit, when we launched, aside from bringing Airbnb to Haiti for the first time and launching a 5-year agreement, bringing a platform to the country with the Ministry of Tourism, bringing Google to Haiti, bringing Facebook to Haiti, helping entrepreneurs build and scale in the country for the first time. Businesses are getting funded across the country because of Haiti Tech Summit. I would say we also sparked a movement across the Caribbean. I'm seeing a lot of tech summits and tech conferences happen across the region. I receive requests all the time from government officials and private sector enablers about how do we build a tech ecosystem within our respective country. And right now with the pandemic, it's been a unique time for the region to rethink about digitizing business ecosystems regionally, but also looking to startups for more respect, because I know we think about SMEs as being pillars of businesses within our countries, but looking at startups as an innovative way of building the country forward. So Haiti Tech Summit really sparked that, especially in a place where Haiti is the first Black republic. In many ways, we started a very societal revolution. I thought that this could also be a place to start a tech revolution as well.
Yeah, that's excellent. How do you view the digital entrepreneurship space across the Caribbean, given the acceleration in digital transformation due to the pandemic and that kind of thing? What are you keeping your eye on in that space?
I am so excited for the Caribbean right now because I actually think because many people, when they look at the Caribbean, we have a huge focus, economically speaking, on tourism. Right now, the biggest industry that probably had the hardest hit was tourism because of the pandemic. And I do believe with just my entrepreneurial nature, when your back is against the wall, you really do find innovative solutions. And I do believe chaos is a ladder for opportunity. I think the Caribbean is forced now to really think about what other industries of creativity do we have that we can leverage to export to the world. Our music, soca, right? Our art, our creative products that we create by hand every single day across the Caribbean. We are seeing fintech, agriculture. There's so many climates. We're living in a crazy time when it comes to climate change. what better region to discuss and move forward the conversation on climate than a region that's highly dependent on the future of climate change globally. So I believe that right now, the next wave of innovative solutions is going to come from the Caribbean, especially because more and more diasporas tapping into going back home and connecting with locals to build platforms and to build tech solutions. And I do believe right now the governments are also thinking creatively around digital solutions. We're seeing digital visas where governments like Barbados, I'm seeing other governments like Jamaica are announcing initiatives to get remote talent to come into the Caribbean and stop brain drain in many different ways. So I do believe that the pandemic accelerated something that would have taken probably 50 plus years into 10 into one. And so it's a great opportunity for the Caribbean. And I think the only way forward right now is up, because we have no other choice within the region but to move forward and accelerate forward as a region in the Caribbean.
And Christine, what do you think are the most exciting tech opportunities coming out of this region?
Where do I even begin? I mean, I think because I'm not only a big push with Haiti Tech Summit, I also host summits across the region. Actually, next week, we're hosting the Caribbean Future Summit. And all we do is look at innovative solutions that's coming out of the region. I think I mentioned the industries that I see a lot of Caribbean entrepreneurs focus on. And the 5 that I just mentioned is climate tech, obviously, fintech is a big one, agriculture tech, music tech. I see a lot of emphasis on this. And obviously, health tech has been a big one, that there's huge emphasis around digitizing healthcare. So these are the industries I see a lot of entrepreneurs are building companies around, because these are topics and industries that are very close to home within the Caribbean. But in terms of opportunities, I do think that right now, what we need to have a conversation around is really around the right infrastructure to really scale innovation, because people are building amazing companies in the Caribbean, but getting it to the global atmosphere when it comes to Wi-Fi connectivity. That's why I'm so proud of what Digicel is doing as one of the leading telecoms in the region, and trying to get the message out there around real innovative solutions that are coming to market. I think that's going to be a huge requirement in getting more entrepreneurs into the space. But there are tons of startups that are now also competing globally. A lot of times I saw a lot of entrepreneurs probably like 6 years ago focus on a lot of just local competitions, local opportunities to build and scale their businesses. I'm seeing now Caribbean startups are pitching globally solutions that global companies are tapping into now across those industries mentioned. So I can only see more and more companies. And of course, I would say the countries that are leading the way in exporting some of the top number of startups, Jamaica, Trinidad, obviously, Barbados, Haiti, surprisingly enough, even though we're a Francophone country, Dominican Republic, despite having the Spanish background, is also exporting a lot of really amazing tech startups across those industries. And I'm seeing a lot of the smaller islands are now traveling across the Caribbean to cross-pollinate solutions as well, to take that globally. So I'm going to see more and more activities from that front.
Right. Obviously, being from the Caribbean, you hear the term emerging market, and we've almost heard it for too long now, it feels like. But do you think being seen as an emerging market is a hindrance, or is it a helper when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship?
That is such a phenomenal question. And I think it's a catch-22, because we're not sure what is like impacting the cycle of innovation. Is it because we're being, like you said, categorized as an emerging market, or is it because we are an emerging market? Which is the cyclical nature here that we need to determine to see what will move the region forward? I do believe that right now, during this decade, being an emerging market is actually beneficial, because a lot of investors are now looking to frontier emerging markets now, because that's where the next wave of innovation and the next wave of users are coming up. You're seeing Facebook, Google, all these top Fortune 500 companies are now saying that we are actively looking for investments in emerging markets. I do believe 5 to 10 years ago, it was a hindrance only because people were only focused on Western markets to scale and build their products. Now I'm seeing more dialogue around what is happening in the next wave of innovation in other markets. So, for example, right now, even though I'm Caribbean, I'm speaking from the African continent, right? And because there's huge amount of investment flows come into the African continent. Before, if you look at the Caribbean, it was kind of bucketed under Latin America and the Caribbean. People didn't specifically look at the region, but now people are looking at the Caribbean specifically as a region that's emerging, that is scaling. And what it is respect. People now respect what it means to be an emerging market. They don't look at it as, oh, we're just doing a social impact initiative and donating to innovative solutions. Now people are seeing, no, there's actual investment opportunity. So it's really a change in respect and what it means to have that emerging market title. So I think right now, this is a good time to be defined as an emerging market for the Caribbean, and specifically saying that the Caribbean region is a place for investment, not just Latin America and the Caribbean, and looking at the region as a side, but looking at it as a forefront of opportunity. I think that's very important that we know the distinction between the two regions.
Yeah. So you mentioned something earlier, and I just want to circle back to it a little bit. We spoke about those 5 major areas in terms of emerging tech. Which one of those excites you the most?
I mean, I know I'm Caribbean at heart, so obviously music tech is something that I'm really excited about because I think it's truly underrated. I know everyone's talking about health tech and fintech because that's where a lot of the biggest capital rounds are being done globally right now, especially because of the inequalities that's happening both in the financial and health industry when it comes to society. But I do believe, I mean, we're the heart of soca music, Caribbean music that has been such a soul of inspiration for so much activity globally when people think about the region. So I am really excited about music tech. I'm also really excited about agriculture. I think we need to go back to nature. I know right now, before agriculture wasn't sexy enough for my generation, before everyone was trying to focus on the shiny software type of companies or shiny industries that make it look like you're building something that's going to be $1 billion company. But we're going to revert back to the old ways. I mean, now I'm actually figuring out how to connect back to like a lot of my elders' research and resources, because my grandmother was actually a rice farmer. Back in the day, to say that my grandmother was a rice farmer wasn't something that I was proud to share. Now I want to tell everyone, by the way, my grandmother was a rice farmer, and I learned so much from what she did across the farm to really think about how do we innovate and build crops of the future, build food security and sustainability around agriculture in the future. So now agriculture is sexy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what entrepreneurs in my generation in particular are going to do in that industry that's really moving light years ahead right now, because there's new energy into that industry. Yeah. So I'm excited about those two industries specifically.
That's a phenomenal response. And obviously, I mean, Christine, I mentioned your story earlier. You are a shining example. But based on all the experience that you've gathered, what advice would you give to a budding digital entrepreneur who wants to chart their own path and blaze a trail similarly to the way you did?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll start with the first thing is take advice with a grain of salt. I think to truly innovate, the experts will tell you all the ways that things cannot be done. So be very mindful of that. Keep your naivety. It will help you in the long run. I think a lot of the reasons why I've been able to accelerate so quickly is that I respect the experts, but I admire my tenacity and my naivety to just keep trying things until it works. So first things first, to my entrepreneurs, especially this new wave of digital entrepreneurs, embrace thinking forward and not really depending all your decisions on the advice of others. The second thing I would say would be don't take things personally. I think as an entrepreneur, if I told myself this a long time ago to not personalize rejection, to not personalize the lack of unfairness that there is in this world. I think as an entrepreneur, you're going to be constantly be facing a lot of things that are beyond your control, and it will touch on the edge of fairness. The world is not fair. That's why you're an entrepreneur. That's why you're an innovator. You either break the walls or you create new ones that you could break over. So don't take things personally. And the last thing I will say, as far as practical advice to entrepreneurs, don't overestimate what you could do in 10 years, because a lot of times we're rushing to do 1,000 things in 1 year to scale and beat the odds and prove what we could do to scale and be this innovative company. If you make a decision to build something of purpose, of value in this world, take a decade out of your time, out of your life, and say, this is going to be my mission, this is my focus. You'd be very amazed at seeing that long-term vision, what you could do in 1 year, because you have a long-term plan ahead of you. A perfect example of that is when I launched Haiti Tech Summit in 2017, I said it would be a 13-year initiative because I believe in the power of scaling over time and taking time as really an opportunity and not a hindrance. I was able to scale a lot faster across the region because I put the time and the energy and saying that, time will be on my side. So keep pushing forward, be there, and take that opportunity to take opportunities as it comes. You just never know, and be humble. I think right now, the last thing I would say, I know I said it was my last thing, but I think there's too much glorification of entrepreneurship where everyone wants to have a CEO or founder title. I've had more tears of sadness and tears of joy in this journey, and I will not trade those experiences for the world. Don't just go into this industry being an entrepreneur just for the title. Go into it because you want to challenge something that you believe needs to be fundamentally changed, and you're the right person to do it, and go for it. That's what I would say.
That's powerful advice. What would you say is the most important lesson that you still carry with you today that you've learned on this journey?
Too many lessons. But I think the best lesson that I would say that really helped me is leverage your story, no matter what it is. I think I pull so much from my personal experience. I think so many times, a lot of entrepreneurs that I see struggle are the ones that are constantly researching for what other people are saying needs to be done, and don't leverage their own personal journey. We all have a unique thumbprint for a reason. There are 8 billion people on the planet, but this 8 billion unique stories, unique visions. You may not grew up in the same country as someone else, but your journey in that country is very different. So embrace your story, because in that story of what you've been through, what you've seen, what you've experienced is what's going to help you navigate building a business, connecting with people, connecting with opportunities in a unique manner. And that's helped me tremendously. I can't tell you how many times I've interacted with people and I've seen that, oh, we have a connection because I went to your uni, or I met, at this program, or I built a business in this market. My unique experiences are mine, and no one can take that away from me. And that's the spirit that I carry in my business because it's authentic. I think when you research things, people could challenge the facts, but people can't challenge your journey. It's your story. It's your truth. So leverage that. It will help you tremendously when times get tough, especially.
So I'm very curious to know, so I know our listeners must be as well. What can we expect next from you, or what goals are you working on for your future?
Well, great question. I mean, right now, I am really scaling the tech conversation across emerging markets around the world. I think it's been a long time coming. I've been beating around the bush with this, but I aim to have a tech summit in every country in the planet by 2030. And I mean that. Currently, I have 200 brands under my organization called the Global Startup Ecosystem. We already host 68 live brands. So Haiti Tech Summit, Nigeria Tech Summit, Ghana Tech Summit. I plan on scaling these mandates because I believe we're at a conjunction point where It's no longer a conversation that tech needs to be at the forefront of policy, at the forefront of innovation, at the forefront of society. I think now everyone around the world understands the importance of tech because of this global experiment that we're experiencing right now during this pandemic. So I want to be at the forefront of bringing the right minds together through these tech summits around the world and being a platform that really was able to accelerate tech innovation around countries that I believe should have been at the forefront of conversations in the first place. So I started with Haiti, and I'm going around the world. So expect to hear more announcements, more scale of me on this mission, building this conversation around the world at scale. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to meet the thousands of innovators that I will be engaging with along this journey through this path.
That sounds so amazing, Christine, and I'm sure we're all going to be following that journey very, very closely. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there for today because we're almost out of time. But before we go, I just want to say again, thank you so much for joining us here today, imparting that knowledge that you've gained from your experiences. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye. And thanks again to you, all listeners. We hope you've enjoyed this month's episode of Ahead of the Curve Business Talks. And I'll see you back here next month for our next information-packed installment. Thanks again for tuning in to today's show. See you soon as we continue Ahead of the Curve Business Talks.